Good morning, Waterhole Wanderers, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole on this wonderful Saturday morning. So we're starting today off at Tau Waterhole, Tau Game Lodge's Waterhole on Madikwe Game Reserve. My name is Johan Herbst, and I'm the owner of this voice, and I'll be your presenter for today. Just a quick reminder that this is a live and interactive experience. We love to hear from you, so please send your comments or questions through on our app or any of the platforms below. So while we're keeping an eye out for whatever may stop for a drink, we're continuing to honor a very special occasion which was celebrated yesterday, World Ranger Day. So yesterday marked the day we officially honor the brave men and women on the front lines of conservation. So rangers are the true shield between our planet's incredible wildlife and the threats of habitat loss and poaching, often risking their lives in the field so that places like this waterhole at Tau and animals that rely on it remain wild and safe. So today, as we settle in and watch nature unfold live, we're keeping those unsung heroes at the heart of our show. So grab your tea or coffee, drop your questions in the chat, and let's see who comes to visit us today. So at the moment we've got some waterbuck in picture. So they're busy chewing the cud, busy grinding the grass that they eat down into a very nice digestible material. So because they're ruminants, so they've got 4-chambered stomachs, so they've got a very specialized digestive system, and so this helps to make sure that they maximize the amount of nutrients and that they get out of the grass that they eat. So Jive Bunny says, morning greetings, Johan. Very good morning to you as well, Jive Bunny. And it is a pleasure to be hosting today. And I hear you also been watching the Mara crossings. So I also saw that Africam is covering the Mara crossings, which is very exciting. And then Levi Etzebeth says, hello Johan, lovely day today, and thank you. So thank you very much, Levi Etzebeth. So Candace says, I swear they go into a trance when they're chewing. So that does look very meditative, very relaxing, just lying there, soaking up the sun and just chewing the cud. Okay, let's see what's happening at Old Donyo in Kenya. Okay, wow, we've got a magnificent eland in picture over here. Very impressive. Looks like a eland bull. And they are absolutely enormous. They can weigh up to 1,000 kilograms, 1 ton. So very, very impressive indeed. very, very resilient and versatile antelope. They're able to withstand very extreme climbs, very extreme climates, like the Namib Desert and the Kalahari Desert in Botswana. So really very special to have a eland. Very nice sighting today, this morning. And this one looks very relaxed. Doesn't seem too perturbed by what's going on around it. Not that there is too much going on around it. So I'd like to find out who of you were aware of World Ranger Day yesterday, marking the occasion of the very brave men and women that protect our lovely natural areas. So let me know in the comments. So I was a ranger myself once upon a time, where I was in reserve management on a lodge, on a game reserve, and it is very demanding work. You often work in very extreme climates, so very, very hot temperatures and sometimes very cold temperatures at night time, depending on where you're working. And also you're exposed to all sorts of dangers. Of course, the threats of poachers that are armed, and then also, of course, the wildlife that can also kill you. And then, of course, there is the dangers of just your natural environment. You can also be struck by lightning, and you could get hypothermia. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could go wrong out there. And so you need a very strong why as to why are you in this role? Why are you protecting these animals? But of course, there are some brave men and women that do answer the call. So fantastic that we have such incredible people amongst us that are willing to do this work, and it's normally for very little pay, may I add. Okay, let's go and see what's happening at Main Crossing in Kenya. I see we have a very lazy hippo in picture over here. And then it also looks like a lapwing of some sort. I can't see exactly. It almost looks like a blacksmith lapwing. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Just basking in the sun. Might be a bit cool there in the Mara today. Sunning itself also helps to get rid of those ectoparasites, those external parasites that feed on their blood, and they tend to find a way to their blood through the cracks and that in their skin, because hippos also have quite a thick skin, like elephants and rhino, like other pachyderms. But hippos, they've also got quite a sensitive skin in the fact that it's very sensitive to the sun, to UV rays. And so sometimes you'll see there's these pinkish markings, or their skin turns almost pink, and that's because of this secretion. Their skin secretes this substance which scientists recently discovered and named hipposudoric acid, and so this acts like a natural sunscreen for the hippos, and it also protects them against harmful microorganisms, harmful bacteria, and that because it's also got antimicrobial properties. So another very interesting thing about hippos is that many people won't know, but they are incredibly important in these river systems and waterholes, as they help to keep especially stagnant water. They keep it clean, and the reason for this is that they eat a lot of grasses, and grasses contain a lot of silica, so an element which is needed by diatoms. Diatoms are these tiny microscopic unicellular organisms, so they're only comprised of one cell, and so they are a type of algae, and they require the silica to construct their outer sort of shells, or their outer cell wall. And so basically these diatoms are very important in maintaining a balance in these aquatic systems. So they prevent what we call cyanobacteria, which is a bacteria which photosynthesizes, so meaning that so it's a bacteria which uses sunlight to produce food. And so if the cyanobacteria gets out of control, it can form a mat over the waterhole, and then this will prevent sunlight from penetrating to the bottom of the water. So a lot of the animals and the organisms that are dependent on the sunlight, and the plants, aquatic plants, and that, they tend to die off, also because of the lack of oxygen. So when this cyanobacteria dies off, it basically deprives these water bodies of oxygen by the process of decomposition. So there's other bacteria that come and decompose this cyanobacteria, and then this causes very little oxygen to occur in the water, and then therefore fish are normally the first to feel the effects. Okay, so let's go over to Torsha, see what's happening over there. Okay, we've got some beautiful springbok in picture over here. A national animal for South Africa. Very majestic and very agile antelope. Look a lot like the Thomsons, the Tommies that you get in East Africa, although the Tommies are a bit smaller. So Jive Bunny says that David Attenborough and Prince William have done documentaries about the risks that wildlife rangers have to deal with. So that's, I wasn't aware of that, so if you could share what the documentary's name is, that would be lovely. I'll definitely check it out. And then Cold Continent says, rangers don't get days off. They are the reason the sunrise has lions, the river has elephants, and we have this view. Happy World Ranger Month. Salute. Thank you, Cold Continent, for that beautiful tribute to our rangers worldwide. So thank you for that comment. It's lovely that these people get the recognition they deserve. Very hard-working people that don't get many days off, as you mentioned, and also don't get paid very well for this life-threatening work that they do. So hopefully by this type of exposure, by making people more aware of the dangers that rangers have to put up with and deal with, maybe then there'll be more sympathy for rangers, and maybe perhaps the rangers will get a bit better acknowledgement and better pay that they deserve. So Lassie was asking if a lion would be able to take down an eland that's as big as the one that we saw in the previous picture there at Oldonyo, and they would definitely be able to take down an eland of that size, but they would definitely have to cooperate as a pride to take it down. They wouldn't be able to take it down, or one lion by itself. So you can see the springbok over here also just chewing the cud, busy making that grass, or that cud. They refer to that ball of spit and grass and other vegetation. They refer to that as the cud or a bolus. And so basically the springbok will graze or browse, because they're mixed feeders, so they eat grass and they eat leaves and different parts of plants. And so when they chew their food, then they swallow it, and then it enters their first stomach, or the first part of their four-chambered stomachs, and then it starts to ferment over there, and then they basically regurgitate that bolus or the cud again, and then they chew it again until they make it more and more fine, in order for the enzymes in their saliva and all the different microorganisms and bacteria to get to work on the vegetation to get all those nutrients out. So you need a very large surface area for those bacteria and microorganisms to take effect. I have a question here from Art asking, are they fully water dependent? So I'm assuming you're referring to the springbok in picture over here. And so they're actually not that water dependent. They are actually, in terms of antelope, they are one of the lesser water dependent species. So they actually can derive a lot of their moisture from the plant material that they eat, so the leaves and the grasses and that. They're very good at maximizing the extraction of the water or the moisture in that vegetation or the plants that they eat. So they can go for a few days without drinking water. So Gabs is asking a very interesting question over here. Gabs is asking, if rainfall patterns shift, will the Springbok's famous adaptability still be enough? So that is an interesting question, which, I'm not sure we would truly know unless we actively researched it. And I think that the Springbok are incredibly adaptable in these very dry climates, and also these in the areas where they occur, like here at Etosha National Park, where you get extremely hot days and you get extremely cold nights. I mean, the fact that they're able to survive in these extremes, and also that they're able to make the best of the minimal resources that are available, I would say they would be able to adapt with the changing rainfall patterns, more so than other antelope, I would say. The fact that there are so many Springbok in South Africa and in Namibia, Botswana, is testament to how adaptable and resilient they are. So I think they would definitely do very well, or better than other species. And one thing that doesn't really get discussed very often is the impact that, so there are different breeds of Springbok. So it was very popular at a stage, especially in South Africa, for people to breed Springboks of different colors. So you get a black Springbok and a copper Springbok, and all sorts of different varieties. And oftentimes these Springboks that are bred, sorry, excuse my English over there. These Springboks that are bred are not as genetically strong as the wild ones, and so they tend to sometimes escape these reserves where they're being bred, typically on these game farms, and then they mix their genetics with the wild populations, which is a bit of a concern, and something that's not really discussed too much, and also something that isn't researched very much as well. But of course, most things, most research has to be funded, and the sponsors will only fund something that is worth their while. So maybe it's not perhaps something that is priority at the moment for many researchers and many sponsors and that.
Explorers get exclusive extras like extended safaris, private live drives, fireside chats, and the Jackie's Waterhole Cam. Your membership also unlocks early access to travel opportunities, competitions, merchandise, and prizes. So sign up today and you could even win a luxury safari travel prize. Not bad, right?
look at that particular frog.
Starting to become that independent leopard now. And these 10 cubs belong to 4 different females.
They sometimes come and say hi.
Hi there, my name is Kerry Dupree, wildlife presenter and guide. What I love the most about guiding is being able to share my love for wildlife and nature with my guests. Very exciting to find those cheetah boys on a kill. Being passionate about your job makes the world of a difference because your guide definitely sets the tone of every adventure.
Very skittish. See, he's definitely more vulnerable to predation, hence why he is the most alert and the most skittish. I say he, but I haven't yet established the gender of this young zebra. So the question being, are zebra black with white stripes or white with black stripes? So Kelly AA is asking, in a herd of lookalikes, how does a foal find its mother, and what does that say about identity? So every zebra has a unique stripe pattern, much like humans have unique fingerprints, and so they perhaps, I mean, we don't know for sure, but perhaps they're able to identify the foal by looking at the unique pattern, but also the biggest thing would be smell. So they're very gregarious animals, these zebra, and they are often using touch as a way to bond and strengthen bonds and relationships between them. And so through that touching and close proximity, they often smell one another, and so they would know by the smell which fowl is theirs. And I see these zebra in picture, they've got quite short manes. So I'm used to seeing quite long manes. So that's quite interesting. Perhaps a geographical adaptation for these East African zebra. So these beautiful zebra in picture are what we refer to as plains zebra. So you can see the stripes, those black stripes, they go all the way across their bellies, and so that's one of the ways that you can identify them as plain zebra. They've also got these very faint stripes. You can't see them too well on these zebra in picture, but the faint stripes between the black stripes on their rump are referred to as shadow stripes, and that's also a unique identifying feature of these the zebra. So I've got an answer here from Roz and George, saying, as per Rolf Kirsten on the 6th of March 2025, zebra are black with white stripes. Lol. So that would be the correct answer, because if you look at, so hopefully you'll never have to shave a zebra, but so when zebras have been had their hair removed, the skin at the underneath the hair is black, so one could argue that they are black with white stripes, or well, not argue, I mean you can say for sure. And so Joanne says, has also got the correct answer there. I think they're black. Saw an embryo at a museum once. So you're 100% right there, Joanne. They only develop the white hair as they grow older, or as they develop into a fall at birth. You can see they also have a bit of a tinge of orange on their fringe. They've got a bit of ginger on the very tip of their manes. So that is also something it's quite unique. Okay, I believe we've got some elephants at Cerondella, so let's go and check that out. Okay, we've got some Hlambi and Ndlovu here, which basically just translates directly to a herd of elephants. So, looks like we've got an older cow there with perhaps a younger cow, and then a very young elephant too, a baby in picture. Oh, we've got 4 over there. See, they're busy listening out. Just listening out for any dangers, and then they're off again. Incredibly sensitive creatures in the sense that they have incredible hearing and sense of smell. Their eyesight isn't as well developed, but they've got a very acute senses in the taste and the touch and hearing, so very always listening out for any danger, or perhaps maybe communicating to the rest of the herd. So sometimes you'll hear that very characteristic rumbling, and that is the elephants communicating with one another. And often they will rumble like that to inform the other herd members, which are perhaps straying from the rest of the herd, that they must stay a bit closer. So you can see their gait switches up. They can walk at a pace of, on average, about, or their slower pace when they're walking is about 8 kilometers per hour, and then they can switch it up to 13 kilometers per hour on a bit of a faster gait, or a bit of a faster walk. And elephants are able to reach speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour. So there's no ways that a human can outrun an elephant. So often the best thing to do if you ever do encounter an elephant on foot is to try and stand your ground and make yourself look as imposing and as big as possible. So perhaps if you have a stick, you hold that up above your head, you hold your hands above your head, and you would make yourself also sound more intimidating. So you'll try and shout and make sure that the elephant doesn't get any closer. And then if you do manage to escape, then just need to replace your underwear. I love watching these elephants. They're so beautiful and so majestic. So I've got a question here from Hannah asking, do you think infrasound travels further than a lion's roar? So the infrasound, that those rumbles that humans can't hear, which the elephants create to contact one another. So a lion's roar can typically be heard 8 kilometers away on a very cold night. So when the air is very dense and therefore sound can travel further. So that is about the furthest that a lion's roar can be heard. Whereas the elephant rumbles can be heard up to 10 kilometers, sometimes further away. So the rumbles can be heard further away, which is absolutely mind-blowing to think. I can't even wrap my head around that. But yeah, I think it's kind of just nature is it's got filled with so many surprises. And I see this elephant is running, this little baby is running towards mommy, or maybe the older sister. So Monashi is asking, or saying rather, I assume climbing a tree won't work to get away from an ellie. So it depends, I guess, which tree you're climbing and how upset the elephant is at you. Sometimes they just will give what people refer to as a mock charge, which isn't it's still very legitimate charge, but it's more of a warning charge. But sometimes they might follow through, just depending on how stressed out they are, or what sort of condition the elephant is in. Maybe the elephant is in must, in which case their testosterone levels are significantly higher than the average male elephant. I think it's something like 60 times the normal testosterone levels, and so they're very aggressive during this time, and you definitely want to avoid elephant bull in must. And you'll know that an elephant bull is in must by looking at the temporal glands. So they've got these these glands just behind their eyes, or a bit lower than just behind their eyes, and these temporal glands, they secrete this substance which contains a lot of testosterone and other hormones in that, and so when you see an elephant bull that seems a bit slightly agitated and they've got this fluid dripping from their temporal glands, it's best to stay away or move in the opposite direction. So to answer your question, Monashi, you could climb a tree, but it's recommended to try and stand your ground, which isn't always easy, but I guess every situation is unique, and perhaps if you have some higher ground and it's difficult for the elephant to get up and you're able to climb a tree, then that would be better, but elephants are able to push trees over smaller trees, so it's not always the safest. Jackson says that they would zigzag, they'd stand no chance. So I guess that is also a strategy, because elephants, they would normally, they're not very good at sidestepping or turning very quickly, changing direction very quickly because of their large size. So perhaps that is a good strategy to use if you absolutely have to run. But as that one book with the title from Peter Allison, "Don't Run, Whatever You Do," says that is probably the best advice that you can get in the bush, at least for most animals, except maybe a hippo. If you happen to find yourself between a hippo and the waterhole, or a stream, as a river of some sort, it would be best to run in an area where you're not in between the hippo and the water. So they will just run straight over you, and they could easily kill you with their very large and sharp bottom lower jaw tusks, those modified incisor teeth of theirs. I don't know if any of you have perhaps noticed there's a little terrapin just chilling there on what looks like a branch that's sticking out of the water. So terrapins are reptiles, so they also depend on the external environment to keep them warm. So reptiles being cold-blooded, meaning they're not very good at regulating their body temperatures. So this terrapin is just busy basking in the sun, busy catching a tan. So I've got a question for you. So what is the difference between a terrapin? Oh, I see this elephant, this baby is busy, it seems like it's busy suckling at the moment. Perhaps, okay, not anymore. So elephants are quite different to other mammals in that they have their mammary glands located between their two front legs. So they've got, that's where their nipples are located. So that's why I assumed that this baby elephant was maybe breastfeeding, but I wasn't able to see very well over there. Okay, let's go and check what's happening at Old Donyo. Okay, wow, we've got a lovely view of a gymnogene, or an African harrier hawk. Absolutely stunning bird, this. So these birds, they love their eggs. They tend to scavenge eggs from nests of smaller birds, and so often you'll find that they're very animated and moving around trees, trying to look for a nest which where they can poach some eggs from. You can see these African harrier hawks. They've got these very, very sharp beaks, and so that would be a huge advantage to try and pierce open the eggshells and crack them open. A very special sighting, this. It's not often that you get to see, well, at least footage of an African harrier hawk like this. You often see them in pictures, but it was really special to be able to see them like this. So if you notice, the gymnogene has actually got a sort of pinkish color around its eye and there around its beak, and so you can see the skin is bare of any feathers. And so I remember that there was something about the color and how it changes, so I had to just quickly look it up. But basically what happens is it's normally a bright yellow color, but then it turns deep pink or red when the bird is excited, aggressive, courting, or stressed. So perhaps this is a male who is courting at the moment, or perhaps he's a bit stressed.
Can you hear that sound? The way it grows, the way it calls you to come alive. Can you feel the rhythm? The way it beats with the land? Do you feel alive again? Or maybe you never left. You don't just visit the wild, you return to it. Alright then, let me show you what you're missing. Our archive allows you to delve into the past, be it yesterday or many years ago. You can visit characters who've left us.
Doesn't ever get old.
This is, of course, the Little Prince, Hosanna, guides who've moved on to other things.
Tingana's walking right in front of my vehicle.
These guys are the sausage tree pride.
Classic stories and wonderful moments. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together. When the Mara turns green, life surges, the air hums, the earth stirs, and the wild comes alive. Here, the wonder never ends. It just changes color. Every storm, every sunrise, every sweeping vista is an expression of wild magic. Visit the Masai Mara. Experience the magic. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. You'll also have access to our post-produced content, like a Wild Bush Week. Textbooks tell us that a ratio of 3-to-1 hyenas drive off lionesses. Safari Live Catch-Up.
We have got some doggies that are on the hunt.
And even that sort of cult favorite, The Wild Show. And the little one has made it out and hopefully will rejoin the herd. Wild Earth Explorers. Wilder. Together. We know that adverts pay our bills, but you don't necessarily like them. So, this is a fantastic way to stop being interrupted. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. 24/7, ad-free, live and on demand. No pesky commercials, no rude interruptions, just wild Africa exactly as it unfolds. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
During that period, and then also when they are excited, when they're aggressive, or when they're stressed. So very interesting that. So Roz and George are saying, thanks Zumi, stunning picture of African harrier hawk. So this is excellent work by the Zumi over here. The unsung heroes of Live at the Waterhole and Africa. So please do keep those questions and comments coming in. So while we're... Oh, okay, wow, there's a... that warthog spooked the gymnogene there. Very unperturbed. Beautiful little warthog this, and you can see why they're called warthogs based on those growths just above their tusks, between their tusks and their eyes. So also you'll see there's those bumps just beneath their eyes, and so basically these bumps are there to protect them, especially males when they're fighting, and so it protects their face. And so these are not warts, and so obviously when they were first named or first described, these were believed to be warts, but they're actually just they're sort of cartilage and hardened skin around their face, which then protects their face. So David is asking, why do they feed on their wrists? So if you've ever seen a warthog busy feeding, you'll see that they tend to go down onto their wrists or what looks like their knees, and then they basically try and get as close to the ground as possible, because they've got very short necks, or they don't really have too much of a neck. It's more just head and then body. But so because they've got such short necks, they're not able to get very close to the ground in order to get to rip out those roots and grasses that they're after. So they need to bend their knees or wrists in order to get closer to the ground. So unfortunately for the warthogs, they are part of the ugly five. And do you know what the ugly five are? So answer in the comments who the ugly five are. So Emma is asking, how big do warthogs get? So a very, very large male could weigh up to about 150 kilograms. I think that's just over 300 pounds. A very, very chunky little pig. And so you'll see their tusks. You can just see them protruding there from the side of this one's mouth. So the top tusks are not really too much of a concern, although they are very dangerous. But those bottom ones are the real nasty ones. They tend to cause the most damage whenever they are attacking we've got some oxpeckers. So they tend to cause the most damage when they are busy defending themselves, or perhaps trying to fight for a female. So those nasty little incisors on their, or tusks on their bottom jaw, those are the ones that they get sharpened with the top tusks. It was nice seeing looks like a double-banded sandgrouse, and then we've got some oxpeckers busy drinking there, some red-billed oxpeckers. I'm not 100% sure. Not 100% sure whether that, it does look like a double-banded sandgrouse, but I'll have to double check. But let's go back to Tau and see what's happening over there. Okay, lovely. We're seeing so much today. We're very, very blessed, very privileged. Got a waterbuck over here, nice picture of a waterbuck busy eating some aquatic vegetation, it would seem, some aquatic plants. And we've also got a common moorhen in the bottom of our screens to the right. And we've got a brindled gnu, a blue wildebeest. It's coming to join. So we've got our second member of the ugly five, as Yenzani correctly pointed out. So Yenzani said hyena and wildebeest are also part of the ugly five. So what are the other two? So we've got warthog, hyena, wildebeest. What are the other two? So Nash says hyena gotta be there. So definitely not the most attractive. They weren't blessed with looks, but I do love hyena. They're one of my favorites, and I love when I'm in the bush and I'm able to hear hyena at night time busy whooping. It's very special. So Tando says crocodile. So crocodile aren't part of the ugly five, but I guess there's a strong case for them as well. So Gab says marabou stork. That is correct. So marabou stork is another one. So we're missing one more. We need one more. And Yummy correctly pointed out that it's a vulture. So we've got our vulture, marabou stork, brindled gnu or wildebeest, hyena, and warthog as the five ugliest animals of the bushveld, arguably. But this is the list. I don't know who created it, but there is an ugly five. So today we've just seen two of the ugly five, so perhaps we can see maybe a third, maybe a marabou stork. Doubt we'll see hyena because they're nocturnal, but you never know. And we could also see vultures. But we do have a crocodile in picture there, which is very, very cool, because I do think they are fascinating creatures. We've got two in picture there, it would seem. Beautiful reptiles, these ancient prehistoric animals, or prehistoric reptiles. So there's been records of crocodiles living up to 100 years old. I'm not sure where exactly, but so it's quite fascinating that they are able to get that old. And that's also a testament to how resilient they are. You know, you'd think if you're just immobile most of the time, you're just sedentary, just waiting for prey to come to you and hoping that you don't get trampled on by a buffalo or an elephant or something, but that you would no, it's just amazing that they survive, and all the harsh elements, the extreme heat of the African days and the cold nights, but somehow they're able to do it. So Lex is asking, does patience count as a hunting strategy? And absolutely, Lex. It's one of the most effective hunting strategies, because you need a lot of patience in order to hunt, and many times the predators will fail, but that's why you just need persistence and patience when as a predator to hunt. And one of the most interesting things I find about crocodiles is that they're able to stay underwater for up to 2 hours, and how they're able to do this is quite amazing. So they're able to slow their heartbeats down to 4 beats per minute, and so by slowing their heart rate down, they're able to stay underwater for much longer. So there's not as such a high demand for their bodies to respire, so they don't need so much oxygen, and they're not releasing a lot of carbon dioxide. So Hannah is asking, for the ugly five, which vulture are they referring to? And it would seem that it's all of them. So from my from my lists, the list that I've got and that I've read about, it would seem that any vulture sort of qualifies as part of the ugly five. But probably the most common that you'd find in South Africa is the white-backed vulture. So and maybe the lappet-faced vulture has probably got is a strong contender for the ugliest, but also the most powerful vulture. We've just got a common moorhen just floating past the screens, the bottom of our screens. Okay, so we've got a very long comment, but a very interesting one from Jules. So thank you very much for sharing, Jules. So we've got the ugly five, as we've mentioned. And then we've got the shy five, which he mentions are, they mention that the shy five is aardvark, porcupine, meerkat or suricate, African wildcat, and bat-eared fox. So from that list, I do have African wildcat is not on my list. So on my list I've got meerkat, aardvark, porcupine, aardwolf, and bat-eared fox. So I don't know, I'll have to double check that, but I don't think that African wildcat is on there. And then we've got the small five, which you got all correct over there. The elephant shrew, the antlion, the buffalo weaver, the leopard tortoise, and the rhino beetle. So that is correct. So I'll just have to double check on those on that shy five, but from my list or from my memory, the shy five doesn't include African wildcat, and that it includes aardwolf instead. And so for those of you who don't know what an aardwolf is, it's basically just like a smaller, well, it looks like a smaller version of a hyena. And at one stage they were part of the same family, but then they were divided into two separate families, the aardwolves and the hyenas. But I'm not sure whether they've now re-emerged, but with taxonomy, the classifying of animals, it's constantly changing with new research and new data, so it's difficult to keep up with all of the name changes in that. Even just the birds in South Africa, the common names are always changing, and so they're always releasing new editions of bird books. So yeah, that's quite interesting. So Jack says, great filming. Am I looking at two crocs? And you would be indeed correct, Jack, that we do have two crocs in picture. It looks like a mono croc, a big croc that's just got two tails and two bodies and no head. But yeah, that is there are two crocs facing one another over there. And then we've got a lovely picture of some dung over here in front of the crocodiles. Very very special sighting, the the elephant dung. Okay, let's go and see what's happening at Old Donyo. I hear there are more zebras for us there. These zebra are looking quite relaxed. Don't look too nervous or perturbed at the moment. So I actually had a question earlier which I missed from Monashi, asking what is a group of zebra called. So the collective noun for the zebra is a dazzle. So a dazzle of zebra is what you'd refer to as many zebra grouped together. So you can see it is quite an optical illusion. If you stare at it looks just like one big optical illusion that you can't really differentiate the one from the other. It all just looks like one massive optical illusion, which is also what the lions see when they're hunting at night time. They just see this these black and white stripes because the zebra will be roaming quite close together, and when they're walking like this, it's very hard to sort of zoom in on one as a predator, as a lion. Very difficult to differentiate between them and lock in on one and try and hunt one down when there's just so many of them, and they're creating this dazzle display, this optical illusion. So Yummy says, interesting, didn't know about small 5 and shy 5. So yeah, it is quite interesting, all these lists that people come up with. And there's also a big 6 birds in the Kruger National Park. So you get the Kori bustard, the saddle-billed stork, the ground hornbill, martial eagle, the lappet-faced vulture, and then the Pell's fishing owl. So all of which I've had the privilege of seeing. So yeah, incredibly lucky. The Pell's fishing owl I've only seen once, as I was lucky enough to work along the Willifants River where many of them used to nest, but now it seems, because of a lot of developments along the Willifants River, lots of lodges being built, lots of homes being built, and so they tend to make their nest at these big trees along the Willifants River, or they used to, and now I believe most of them are nesting there along the Limpopo River. So they've moved further north, and unfortunately due to all these disturbances because of developments. So that's it's also something that ecotourism is obviously a very necessary thing, but sometimes it can be a bit of a disturbance to the wildlife. So it's a necessary evil in many cases. So these zebra look very relaxed. You don't see them look very tense. Yeah, the tails are busy wagging. The tails would stop wagging if they were alert to something. And we've got a magnificent giraffe coming to have a little drink. Beautiful picture with the zebra and giraffe in picture. It's actually a name of it was quite a popular band back when I was in high school. So this looks like a female giraffe in picture over here with some, I think she's got some oxpeckers on her neck. Oh no, maybe not. So a lot of the times you'll see that zebra and other animals like impala and wildebeest will follow giraffes because they've got the advantage of being able to see very far away, so they can see incoming danger and alert other animals to danger before the danger gets too close. So and they've also got excellent eyesight, but they're not very good at vocalizing. So the adult giraffes, they don't, as far as we know, they don't have any vocalization. So yeah, they would just basically, how they alert the other animals to danger is by standing still. They stand in one spot for very long, and then they just stare at one direction for very long. And I think animals are also a lot more intuitive than we are. I think we've lost a lot of our intuition or our sixth sense, and I think they're also able to feel when another animal is feeling a bit stressed or a bit threatened. So I think they can definitely pick up on that energy, and so that's also perhaps a way that we're unable to sort of quantify that the animals are able to feel and know when danger is coming. So the oxpeckers also tend to pick the ticks and that off of the backs of the giraffes, off of the hair and that of the giraffes, and they also act as an early warning system for many other species when they alert the animals to danger. When they have their alarm call, then the other species will know that to look out for any predators. And so oxpeckers also have very special and unique adaptations in order to hold on to a giraffe or other large herbivore when they're busy moving. So they've got very sharp claws, which helps them to grip onto the fur of the giraffe. And then they also have very specialized tail feathers, which helps to balance them while they are riding on the giraffe. So that tail feather almost acts like a tripod, like a third leg for them, so helping them stay on the animal. So Jules says there's a new initiative called the New Big Five, which was created by photographer Graham Greene to shift the focus from hunting animals with guns to shooting them with cameras. So that is referring to, so the term Big Five was actually initially coined as a hunting term, which referred to the 5 most dangerous animals to hunt on foot. And so that's why the giraffe or hippo isn't included in the Big Five. But I see so many people are now opting for a new Big Five. So it's quite interesting. Thank you for mentioning that, Jules. I'll have a look into that. Oh, here, sorry, I see the new Big Five list is the elephant, chosen for their massive ecosystem engineering impact, and then the polar bear, highlighted to represent the fragility of Arctic ice habitats, the tiger, selected as an endangered apex predator of Asia, the gorilla included to focus attention on vulnerable primate populations, and then the lion retained from the traditional list for its cultural and ecological weight. So I see only 2 of the original Big Five are included in the list, and yeah, hopefully one day I'd be able to, and hopefully you'll also be able to see all of the Big Five. One can only dream. I'd love to see a polar bear in the wild, but I don't know how ethical the tours are and that go and see the polar bears, but I don't know too much about it. But I just know that people drive in these massive armored vehicles, which prevents the polar bears from getting at them. So hopefully one day I can see a polar bear in the wild. It's also my dream to see a gorilla in the wild. I actually recently watched a documentary about, that was narrated by David Attenborough, about these gorillas in Rwanda. I think the name of the gorilla was Pablo, and all of his descendants. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see gorillas out there in Rwanda, but yeah, it's extremely expensive for South Africans, but who knows, maybe one day I get lucky. So can any of you tell me why is this a female giraffe and not a male? So remember to send your questions or comments to us on the various platforms. Beautiful giraffe this. So they're able to reach a maximum of 6 meters high, 6 meters tall. So by far the tallest land mammal. And then they can also reach maximum weight of about 1,400 to 5,500 kilograms. So females only tend to weigh between 700 to 900 kilograms, but the males can get much larger. Interesting to see how these zebra walk so confidently to the waterhole when it's just a giraffe around the waterhole, but when there's elephants there, they almost walk in a sort of submissive display to make sure that they don't upset the elephant. So there's definitely a hierarchy, but the giraffe seems very chilled. And you don't often see them chasing animals away. They're just super chiller vanilla. So Hannah has correctly pointed out that you look at the ossicones of the giraffe to establish whether it's a male or a female. Well, that's at least one of the ways you can determine between the sexes. And so there you've got a nice shot which the zoom is now zoomed into. So you can see the ossicones, they've got a bit of a tuft of hair on the top of them, those horns at the top, and so a female has those black tufts of hair, and the males, they don't have that tuft of hair at the top because of fighting, which then, because of friction, rubs off those hairs. So let's go to Tau. Let's see what's happening at Tau. Oh, beautiful. Got some waterbuck that are busy eating some aquatic plants again, some lily pads. So you can see they're very aptly named waterbuck because they love to spend a lot of their time in or around water. So they're very water dependent antelope. And so they've got this very shaggy coat, which obviously would help them when they are in cooler waters to keep them warm. But also the shaggy coat contains a lot of this oily substance, and this oily substance, it's very foul smelling, so it doesn't smell very nice. If you've ever been to a petting zoo and you've perhaps petted a goat, you would know how bad that smell is, that it can stay on your hand and on your body for days, that smell. So I can imagine it's much worse with waterbuck. And so this oily substance is believed to keep them buoyant in the water. So if they're ever being chased by a lion or another predator, they would go into a waterhole or river or that. But they're not completely safe there either, because the crocodiles obviously could also get to them. So I've got a question here from Silly Gill, asking, or rather stating, I understand the role of oxpeckers, but why would hippos allow big birds like herons to sit on them in the water? So that is a very, very interesting question, which I don't have the answer to. But yeah, that's something that it's a thought-provoking question that I'll have to do some thinking about what the reason would be. But perhaps maybe because it doesn't have very sharp claws, so the claws don't really bother the skin of the hippo too much, and you know, birds are always relatively light. So and perhaps maybe the heron would offer a form of protection in vigilance, you know, by looking out for danger for the hippo. So that's an interesting question. I mean, the oxpeckers, as you mentioned, you can understand why they would be allowed on the hippo, but it's a bit strange that a heron would be allowed. But I haven't seen this for myself, but if you could point out where you've seen it, that would be very interesting and very helpful. We also got a red-knobbed coot in the background there. That black bird with a white face, and then it's got like these two little red knobs just above the white part of their face. So you can obviously see with the waterbuck, they've got this white ring around their bottoms, and so this white ring, there's more of this oily substance that I was mentioning earlier around, or this area of the white ring, and so perhaps that oily substance has made the hair a bit of a lighter color. But there's also theories as to why these animals have these what are referred to as follow me signs. So it's believed that these markings are typically found on the back of animals like your impala, that of the 3 black stripes, and your waterbuck with the white ring. And even lions, they've got the black at the back of their ears and the black tip of their tail, which all of these are believed to be follow me signs, which basically would help supposedly the younger animals, or the animals following the leader to successfully follow them in the long grass or tall grass and to not get lost. So especially with lions, it would be beneficial when they're hunting, so they use those tail flicks, so that black tip of the tail in communication while they're hunting, so that they don't make any noise. And they also use their ears when trying to communicate to the rest of the pride while they're hunting. So I've got a question from Denise asking, do they smell like that because they live near water? So I'm not entirely sure what the reason is for that smell, but there are some theories that the smell deters predators, which I don't believe is true, because I've seen on a couple of occasions lions eating waterbuck, so that theory doesn't really hold or stand true.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and a female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. You'll also have access to our post-produced content, like a Wild Bush Week. Textbooks tell us that a ratio of 3-to-1 hyenas drive off lionesses. Safari Live catch-up.
We have got some doggies that are on the hunt.
And even that sort of cult favourite, The Wild Show. And the little one has made it out and hopefully will rejoin the herd. Wild Earth Explorers. Wilder. Together. We know that adverts pay our bills, but you don't necessarily like them. So, this is a fantastic way to stop being interrupted. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. 24/7, ad-free, live and on demand. No pesky commercials, no rude interruptions, just wild Africa exactly as it unfolds. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
Or a monkey corpse. And so nothing goes to waste in the wild, and I just find it absolutely fascinating that everything is always in a balance or trying to reach an equilibrium, and regardless of whether humans are here or not, nature will always continue to thrive, because it's just, there's so many discoveries nowadays. There's even discoveries of fungi which are able to digest microplastics in that, and so there's just so many new developments that, and we refer to this field of research as biomimicry, and biotechnology, using what nature provided us with, and all the engineering and the architecture that nature provides us with to to help us, to build our civilization and to hopefully prevent us from destroying nature any further. So I hope that answers your question, Sabelo. So I've got a question here from Jenny asking what my favorite antelope or buck is and why. So my favorite antelope would be a kudu. I absolutely love a kudu. They're just so elegant and majestic the way they walk, and just there's actually such powerful animals, incredibly powerful necks and antlers, and they're just beautiful. The way that the antlers also spiral is very unique. So I absolutely love kudu. Thanks for the question, Jenny. Okay, let's see what's happening at Tembe Elephant Park in KwaZulu-Natal. Got a beautiful herd of elephants over here at the aptly named Tembe Elephant Park. So if you've ever spent much time observing elephants, you'll notice that most of the time you observe them, they're busy eating or drinking. And the reason for this being that elephants, they obviously need to consume a lot of food in order to maintain those massive bodies. And this is also partly because they have a very inefficient digestive system. So they're only really able to efficiently digest and absorb about 40% of what they eat. So absorb the nutrients in that of about 40% of what they eat. And so they have to eat loads in order to keep up those big bodies and to fuel those big bodies of theirs. So they can eat easily up to 200 to 300 kilograms of plant material in a day. So you can imagine they need huge pieces of land in order to sustain them. So huge pieces of land like this Tembe Elephant Park, which is about 30,000 hectares. So if you can imagine 1 hectare being the size of a football field, so just times that by 30,000, and you'll have Tembe Elephant Park. So They need big home ranges. So elephants aren't territorial. They don't defend a territory or scent mark a territory, but they do have home ranges. So these are preferred areas in which they roam, and their home ranges can be up to 3,500 square kilometers. So massive tracts of land on which they then end up roaming. Also just incredibly versatile herbivores. They're able to eat almost any part of a plant. They eat leaves, bark, roots, flowers, fruits, seeds. They're just incredibly efficient at using the most of everything that's available to them. And so they are quite, so people say, some people would argue they're quite destructive, but the thing is that back in 1981 there were about 1.3 million elephants on the African continent, and now it's down to, I think, about 300,000. So I mean, in that short time we've managed to lose a significant amount of our elephants, and a lot of this was due to poaching for ivory. And so I believe that there was a moratorium at one stage, so a complete stopping of the ivory trade, because it was just getting to a point where elephants were just being lost at an unsustainable rate. And but I think all ivory trading has been banned completely now. But I know in parts of South Africa, I think I guess that's a topic for another time. So Mark is asking what the difference is between a home range and a territory. So a home range is just an area which is preferred by an animal, so it's a large area where the animal has sufficient water and sufficient resources like food in order to sustain them, but they don't actively defend that area. There might be a small area like a waterhole in that they might defend, but they don't scent mark and aggressively defend that home range or that area in which they occur. Whereas a territory is, for example, white rhino and black rhino have territories, or at least the males, they have these territories which they then would scent mark. They scent mark around the boundaries of their territories, and they would then also defend those areas. So if any other rhino were to come into his area, then he would pick a fight with that rhino. So I don't hear where we're going to next, but let's see what's happening at some of our other destinations. Looks like we've got those two crocodiles still, and we've got a magnificent elephant, looks like an elephant bull. The reason I say elephant bull is because he's on his own, and also he's got very long legs, so very stocky body too. You can see those folds at the back of the ear, so it's not a youngster either. You can see those folds, the the more folded those ears are, or the deeper those folds, the older the elephant. So he's probably sort of a young to middle-aged elephant. Oh, there's another, looks like another big bull. And so another reason why I mentioned that it's probably a bull is that because your females tend to be in herds, in these matriarchies, and males, they either are, or when they're young, before they reach puberty, around 12, they tend to be in these matriarchal herds. But as soon as they become teenagers, then they get chased away from the herd, and then they form these bachelor groups. So it's a random assortment of male elephants ranging from 12 years to 60 years old, and so they would then band together like this in a bachelor herd to have strength in numbers, to then protect themselves and help each other look for resources, for the best water holes or the best feeding sites and that sort of thing. So I was mentioning that elephants, they have what a lot of people deem as destructive behavior by pushing over trees and that. And I was mentioning that they used to occur quite extensively across Africa, or at least the African savanna elephant and forest elephants used to. And now their populations, in especially in East Africa and the rest of Africa, are dwindling, whereas we have very healthy populations in South Africa. But the problem is moving elephants. So if we were to try and move the elephants from South Africa to the rest of Africa, it would be a very, very expensive process and exercise, and also an incredibly stressful one for the elephants too. So let's quickly head over to Old Donyo while I still explain what I'm explaining. Okay, well, there's a very beautiful sight of giraffe and eland in picture. And also looks like a starling of some sort over there to the right. So the moving of elephants I was mentioning is not really a option. So maybe in some very random, very select cases you would be able to move the elephants, but often with relocating animals there's a high mortality rate. So a lot of animals end up dying from stress and just the unnatural sort of scenario of being in a crate, or being transported by a big truck or whatever it is. And so it's just not really feasible, because many people ask, well, why don't you move all the elephants from the Kruger to these areas where there aren't so many elephants? And it's just incredibly expensive, and unless you have a huge sponsor for it, it's not going to happen. So a lot of the reserves in South Africa do have big problems with elephants pushing over trees, and but in areas where they're not restricted to, when elephants are allowed to roam freely between areas, they don't have such a significant impact as when they do when they're confined to smaller spaces, which they are now because of their limited areas in which they're allowed to occur. So the national parks and game reserves. So, but these the pushing over of trees, I was going to add, is that the pushing over of trees actually is very beneficial because it can provide other browsers an opportunity to feed on fresh shoots from the top of the canopy of the tree, and it can also help an area of bare soil to regenerate its grasses, because that canopy or the tree that's pushed over is able to then capture a lot of runoff from rain, and it's also able to trap grass seeds in that. And so basically some might argue that this is a strategy by the elephant to bank grasses for the future. So it's an interesting concept, but one that I wouldn't put past elephants because they're so intelligent. But yes, they can be destructive when they are confined to small spaces, but naturally they have a huge positive impact on their environments when they are in an area which is suitable for sustaining them. So Rosin George says, thanks Johan for your time today. So it's an absolute pleasure, Roz, and I've had an absolutely fabulous time over here on Live at the Waterhole today. I have another comment here from Anthea saying, a waterhole is never just water. It is also memory, conflict, opportunity, and chance, all in one place. So that is definitely a very beautiful way of looking at it. So much happening at the different waterholes. Okay, it looks like we had a bit of a technical error there at Oldonyo, but let's wrap up the show at Tau Waterhole, Tau Game Lodge at Madikwe Game Reserve. Absolutely beautiful game reserve in the Northwest Province with a beautiful elephant. And I'd just like to thank everyone for your questions and comments today and for having me on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So I wish you all a lovely week, and I wish you all lots of love and happiness, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much.